Canadians deserve to know why the most blatant violation of the spirit of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms since it came into force in 1982 was allowed to take place. We need a public inquiry now. Thank you.
The rally continues on July 17th, and we've got a guest here, Mr. Don Stevenson. But do you mind introducing yourself?
Okay. I was just named to the advisory board of the CAP, the Canadians Advocating Political Participation. I had been a deputy minister at Queen's Park here, and I had earlier been involved in negotiating and helping to write the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Right, and I know that's one of the important parts of this rally is recognizing the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and what happened during the G20 weekend. I guess what is your opinion on what went down in the end of June?
Well, I thought it was security overkill. I thought first that it shouldn't have been in downtown Toronto.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Bill Blair's got to go. Am I not loud enough for you? Bill Blair fired.
Between March and June of this year, it was a very condensed amount of time for the city to communicate what the federal government wanted us to do, what the communication lines of communication between the various levels of police and law enforcement were. This was an ad hoc, slapped together, last minute ISU integrated God knows what unit. So it's not fair that this got dumped on the incumbent mayor. It's not fair that the Prime Minister prorogued Parliament after dumping the G20 meeting to our current mayor's doorstep with only a 15-minute warning call, a heads up, and it's like, oh, sorry, you have 3 months less to organize because you're not able to talk to us because I don't have a mandate from Parliament to actually talk to you. So it's disgusting, disappointing. We need answers, and we need this to never, ever happen again. Thank you.
What do we want? Public inquiry. When do we want it? Now! We've got some important questions here, Mr. Bill Blair. You know what? I got 2 words for you. You're fired! You're fired, Bill Blair, and you know what? You don't answer the public's questions, you pass laws in secret, and you give orders for the police to stand down and not apprehend black blocs. Criminals that were here to create violence in our city. Where were the police to protect the public? Let's ask the right questions. We're not going to shut up. We got voices. We got freedom. We have civil liberties. And you can't try to take them away.
The actions of the police during the week shocked a lot of people, but for many communities in this city, these actions are just a reflection of the routine violence they face at the hands of the police. They were types of actions that poor communities and marginalized communities see all of the time. Some of us live under the illusion that these things don't happen here. But the truth is, we live in a place where the police force is given $1 billion a year, while poor people are denied access to food and necessities, and while community centers and schools are forced to shut down. We live in a place where people are considered illegal, and the cases of 500 missing Indigenous women warrant no attention, and those that condone the torture of people in other countries are sitting in the highest offices in the country.
Here at Queen's Park, I know the major building we got here is the Ontario Legislature. Do you have any opinion on Delta McGuinty and the secret law, or the so-called secret law that was in effect?
Well, I worked at Queen's Park for 30 years, and I must admit I had never heard of the Public Works Act with this kind of provision in it.
We won't be shut up. We're going to speak out.
The government and the city showed a rotten sense of communication, because the police chief himself really didn't know what authority he was being given by it.
Let's breach the police together.
I wholly support the demand for the public inquiry. I think that too much money is actually being spent on policing now, and the crime rate overall is going down. So once again, Bill Blair said things that were not true or factually incorrect. So I don't think it's fair that he passed the buck onto the province or the ISU, the Integrated Security Unit, and even Donald McGuinty's trying to pass the buck from the provincial viewpoint onto the federal government and the ISU. So we'll have to see who made up the Integrated Security Unit, given that there were police forces from all over Canada who are now outside of Toronto and may have participated in some brutality towards demonstrators and protesters.
The problem now is that the Police Services Board inquiry can only deal with the actions of the Toronto Police. The Ombudsman of Ontario can only really look at the OPP or the Public Works Act. But so much of the whole event was orchestrated by the federal government and particularly by the security people. I think that the federal government just allowed the security people to overrun the preparations. And I think a public inquiry would bring out just who was responsible for what element of the G20 preparations and the actions during the 3 days.
Fortunately, I wasn't penned in on the Sunday night when they brought in like about 5,000 police forces from Huntsville and rotated them into the city. So I don't know. It was a lot of wasted money. A lot of officers were just standing around in the shade making $40-50 an hour. So once again, they need to look at where the money was spent.
Just spent $1 billion of taxpayers' money and they didn't even tell you where the money went. This is absolute power taking over the city of Toronto, and if you're not even aware of it, please do your research.
Well, in fact, instead of a celebration of the Charter, the images that have gone around the world about our peaceful, multicultural city have not been centered on whatever decisions the G20 leaders arrived at, but have featured burning cars and masses of riot police arresting mostly peaceful protesters. We need a public inquiry so that
and the police that were involved in the anarchism, dressed up like Black Bloc, they will be dealt with too as well. So they can run, but they can't hide. They tried this once before in Montebello, and it won't happen again. There won't be a third time. So they better stick to the truth themselves. All right? Okay, thanks very much.
Black Bloc provocateurs were undercover cops. Police weapons cache from the G20 was proven to be completely fake. Who uses golf balls and saws as weapons? Makes no sense. The owner of the weapons have also said that he was actually going to play a fantasy role-playing game before being arrested. The Black Bloc provocateurs were actually undercover police officers.
GlobalResearch.ca, wonderful article. You should read it. I read all the articles. You read that? You see those wonderful boots they have? I'd like a pair of those wonderful boots that those police officers wear. Just wonderful boots. Dude.
We are asking that police officers who witnessed their co-workers engaging in these acts of violence against people come forward. Take off your Black Riot uniform. Stop using your bike as a weapon. And give us some real justice, please.
The Toronto Police have appealed for help to the public, so here's my Crime Stoppers tips for them.
You just happen to be wearing a mask, like you are wearing a mask.
Women were threatened with rape. Civil liberties were trampled on. So let's talk about the truth. G20 was an inside job. If you research it, in Montebello, Quebec, police were dressing up as Black Bloc